Dave, I will.
Michael Ragnar, captain.
No, you go ahead and do it. Okay. Yeah. I might say something.
Sure. You're the boss.
Yeah, the clock is off, so we are
Say,
ready.
why does that say 8 o'clock?
Yes.
It's a cheap clock. Do we have, so Michael Ragnar right there. Ragnar is a guest.
All right. Okay, Squadron. Good evening. Please stand. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Bob, would you?
Father, again, we thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for the safety that you've given the Civil Patrol, especially the squadron. You have those who may be in dire need of help, Father, and with guardian angels. And be with our government in the right decisions. In the name we pray.
Amen. Okay, please be seated. Try to move it. Alright, so tonight is a safety night. I see we have visitors. So, sir, would you please introduce yourself?
I used to own this squadron. Well, I was part of it until about a year and a half ago. I moved to Tennessee. I'm now with the Kentucky wing.
I see. Okay.
And I'm 4 hours short of being a mission pilot.
Welcome. Always welcome to the people. Okay. Few updates before we start our safety briefing. First of all, aircraft update. 743 Charlie Papa is still at the north with Sacramento Squadron. Somebody has audio feed.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get it turned down.
I do not have an update when it's coming back as of today. We also do not have an update on the aircraft which was grounded, belonging to that squadron up north. That said, for the time being, our group DO made the decision to keep 887 Charlie Papa here at Riverside, and it will be here until we get our aircraft back, or some other aircraft, depends. So 887 Charlie Papa is in the hangar, is full mission capable, except for the autopilot. Autopilot is in op due to EHARS out of order, plus the OTA sensor is not functional as well, which is part of the same module. So if anyone needs any sign-offs, onboarding, please reach out to the pilots who can give you instruction to the instructor pilots. If you need help finding one and need help scheduling an aircraft, let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you through that process. Next week we do not have a meeting. Keep that in mind. We are out for the Thanksgiving week. We'll be back the following week after the Thanksgiving. Then reminder, in December, our last meeting will be on December 12th, and it will be our Christmas dinner, which we'll have at Spaghetti Factory in Riverside. Hello, Chris. So I will send an RSVP form, hopefully tonight. So please feel free to respond and specify who you're coming with. You're welcome to bring your significant other, your spouse, your girlfriend, and we just need a number of people attending that event. Any questions, comments? All right. Chris and Michelle did a good job. We have a new banner, so please, you may want to step up and demo it to the squadron.
When did you bring that over here?
This morning after work.
Because it wasn't here yesterday when I was here.
No, I did a couple cleaning too while I was
So
here.
you're the culprit. I thought Terry was.
No, actually, this was thanks to Bernard. Kenneth Bernard? Yes. Yes.
Oh, better?
He's one that told me about VE Signs. It's really it's next to Indiana, by the 91 freeway.
Oh, great.
It was a really great price. They worked with me. I was emailing them back and forth with a lot of corrections. And yeah, it looks beautiful.
How come it doesn't say Squadron 5 on it?
No space.
Huh?
I'm thinking about writing in the back so we'll know exactly which sign it is for us.
Well, you got to put a label on it, or somebody else will steal it from us.
I know.
We,
That's what I'm going to put in the back here with the
There you
Sharpie, at least to put that it is ours.
I'm leaving Thursday, so you better hide it.
We had, we based it off of pictures from the ones that Corona Squadron has been taking to the events. Except that we have one thing better, and that is we have cadet programs, and they have cadet programs. So we got to properly.
Should have put our Squadron 5 logo on it.
Well, I'm not exactly sure if it's the logo itself is up to par with regulations. I know we're still.
No, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
We
okay.
cleared that. Our logo
I wasn't
is not
exactly
going.
sure,
No, our
so I didn't
logo
want
is-
to-
Not changing.
Our logo is okay.
Perfect. I just wanted to be sure. But,
No, it's not up to recent regulations, but it's grandfathered. So
Okay,
no.
good. At least for future things, then I can know
Yeah, you
about.
got to show me those recent regulations, by the way.
But yeah.
Well,
thank
even
you.
the wing logo is not up to regulations. So
The wing logo?
yes.
Yeah, they did a really good job. They took the picture I sent from
It does look
29
really good.
and they literally copied it. And yeah, I'm so thankful. They did a wonderful
How
job.
much did that cost us?
This is a donated. So
It's been donated,
It
or
has been
you used
donated.
donated funds?
We paid for it, and we're
Yes.
donating it.
Thank you very much. That's all I need to know.
Thank you so much.
you're
Good
welcome.
job.
Because instead of always utilizing 29's stuff, we thought we needed something on our own.
Okay?
Great.
We are looking into a IKEA. That one is still a little bit on the expensive side, but Black Friday is coming up. So if anyone has any ideas, we're looking for a 10 by 10.
All right. Good.
We also did get 2 signs out in the lobby.
I have a 10 by 10 easy up that you can use, but it's not printed. It's just mine. And I don't even know how good it is, but I haven't opened it for a few years. You're
Yes.
welcome to use it whenever you want to.
I also would like to thank you, Michelle and Chris, for putting advertisement about the squadron and civil air patrol at the Riverside Airport Terminal. Good job. Thank you very much.
Hopefully we can get out there with a lot more people. So yeah, I think the mama, she actually saw it for the first time. It's 24 by 18.
2 of them, one on each side
Yes.
of the terminal, amongst all the rest of the signs, like for the Flight Academy and Next Gen and those guys.
If anyone wants to go by, definitely take a look, see what you think. Hopefully everyone likes it as well.
Great. All right. So one more reminder before I hand over to our safety officer. So next weekend is Sarex at Whiteman Airport. There is no decision yet to move it here. I don't know how they're going to solve fuel problems, but we'll see.
Well, tell us about the fuel problem.
Well, the fuel problem, Whiteman banned indefinitely with immediate effect last week all 100 low lead fuel deliveries. So there is no more 100 low lead at Whiteman. And that's a plan of Los Angeles County to get rid of general aviation airports altogether. So AOPA will fight, of course, but they lost the battle with Santa Monica Airport, and I don't know how good of a chance Whiteman has. Yes, sir.
Are you aware that a lot of our cap aircraft have been SBC'd for no lead fuel?
I don't know exact number of aircraft STC'd for MOGAS even.
Right.
We can
Well, it's
put
not MOGAS. It's unleaded aviation
UL
fuel.
synthetic.
It's 94 UL, as far as I recall. So it's not MOGAS exactly, but
Yeah, it's
it's
not
close
MOGAS.
enough.
But there's an STC out, and a lot of our aircraft have been STC for that that fuel because of these ongoing no lead airports that are being converted. So
I have seen a couple of aircraft with proper decals on a fuel cap
Right.
indicating they are STC though.
okay,
So the way you can tell, look in aircraft information folder, of course, but it should have a clear decal on supported fuel types right all around the fuel cup.
what
Yes.
is STC?
STC.
Supplemental type certificate.
Yes, so it's additional certificate for specific aircraft type permitting certain modifications, like different fuel types, for example, or different equipment and so on and so forth, which is not original from certification
Yeah.
time. Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. So, Sir Roger, would you like to do the presentation?
Well, we'll have Chuck do it now.
Yeah.
And
And give me,
he actually, we may give two, so.
yeah, I think gives him some time, I'll do a little bit of mine. Mine's pretty straightforward and easy.
So let me take it off your way.
Let me share my screen.
Well, yeah, there's,
So do you need to turn the mic on Teams? I guess you do, right? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me. All right, I'm going to play a short video first, and then we'll have a discussion.
You can make it small, right there.
We are here with Colonel Lance Gordon, who is Vice Commander of the 412th. He's a test pilot, and he has a doctorate degree. At this particular time, he's joining us to talk about the concept of wingmanship. And this is very important to the Air Force, but it's been an important topic with Civil Air Patrol, especially with our cadets as well. And Colonel Gordon, we're pleased to have you with us today.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah.
So, Lance, would you talk about wingmanship a little bit?
Yeah. So as fighter pilots, you never ever fly alone ever, and so as a young fighter pilot, you learn very quickly formation flying and how to employ as an element, all these sorts of things. It's always as a team, right? Always as a team effort. And so I think the Air Force was pretty smart to adopt what we do as fighter pilots, but then also to expand that to every other career field and to think about it less as like, well, it's another airplane flying up an airplane, and it's more about people supporting other people. And being a wingman and adopting that as sort of a state of mind. A wingman always has your back. A wingman will be with you in some of the most difficult situations anywhere along the way, because again, we never want someone going into a danger zone, combat zone, since we got the F-14 behind us, alone, right? You always want someone there with you. And so to be a wingman is a very, very unique concept, I think, in society, because we do that in the Air Force as a matter of course. But if you go to other places, you find that concept isn't really there, right? You're my coworker. Maybe I know something about you, but at the end of the day, you go home and I go home, and never shall the two meet ever again, kind of thing. Whereas in the Air Force, we're a team always, on duty, off duty. In your best of times, your worst of times, you're always there together as a team, right? One wingman supporting another wingman.
Wingmanship really is a concept that's really important from the standpoint that it sounds as if it's more than just what you do, but it really is a culture of who I am.
Yep.
And I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah, so this is, and you know, when we start in basic training, you get some of this initially, right? It doesn't matter if you're the fastest runner or you can climb obstacles better than anybody else. I remember very clearly in basic training at the Air Force Academy, you know, if you made it to the finish line before the rest of your classmates, they would kind of look at you like, what are you doing? Right? You got a whole bunch of other guys back there that are struggling. Who cares if you made it to the end? That's great for you, but you're no longer an individual. You're a part of a team, a whole. So go back and go help out your team, right? So it was about getting across the finish line together and being able to understand that not everybody has the same abilities, right? Some people are better at this than you are, and to recognize that and to be able to ask for help. So to your point about it's not really kind of what you do or you don't do, it's more about like a mindset, an attitude that I'm not going to leave anyone behind.
One of the other things that we see with wingmanship that isn't discussed often is that whole concept of when I'm a resilient person, I can not only be open toward helping my fellow wingmen,
Yep.
but also it positions me to be open to when I need my wingman.
Yep. Yeah, you can think about it in terms of moods. There's not a single person here that hasn't had this experience where you are angry about something, and in that moment, right, that anger mood, you make decisions or you say something that you regret. And that when you're calmer later on and your mood changes and you go, wow, I can't believe I said that. If I have a wingman, I know I have someone I can always turn to. It will help shape my mood to be most conducive to solving whatever problem it is that is right in front of us. But if I have someone else to bounce those ideas off of and to be able to banter back and forth with me and perhaps see a different perspective that I wasn't there before, that changes my mood. My mood changes everything about me, my physiology, my mindset. So it makes me better able with which to process and think. So if I've been in a situation where I've been a wingman to somebody else, then that puts me in the mindset of also being able to receive that as well, right?
And to connect with a discussion in the previous video, you were talking about the fact that when you were in trouble in the clouds, lost the instrumentation,
Yeah.
and you were really kind of tunnel focused a little bit on controlling the aircraft,
Yep.
and learning what you could do with it. You were hearing this voice in the background.
There was, and I've heard this before, the easiest way to kind of break yourself out of a stupor, a depression, you know, just a mindset is to be very deliberate about what action step needs to happen next. When I heard that voice in the back of my head saying, fight, right? You can still recover this and don't be just resigned that this is your fate, but to be very action kind of oriented, right? And then when I had someone come back and fly with me, he was very much in that same mode as well, to the point of being very action-oriented, to be able to move on to the next step when you're feeling completely overwhelmed. It's about what's the next step and then taking the action to actually do that.
And I think moving toward a conclusion, you bring a question to my mind, and
Yeah.
that is, from your perspective, if you were counseling me at the moment,
Yeah.
why do I need a wingman?
Everybody needs a wingman. Because everyone is going through something. Everyone is going through something at some time, all the time, right? That's kind of the entryway to life. And so ideally you want to find someone that has a strength where you have a weakness and vice versa, because together 2 + 2 = 7 in that scenario. So everyone needs a good wingman. Everybody needs somebody, like the old song said.
Les, I appreciate you sharing those thoughts with us today. And wingmanship is so important, and it blends so well with resilience, that ability to have the humility to say, hey, I need to listen to my wingman here. Or to recognize I need to be the wingman to my wingman over here.
Yep.
So, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Chaps, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I think the point of this, and obviously everybody can take their own perspective. From a safety perspective, the really important thing about being a wingman is you're a wingman to everybody. If you're looking out for something that's going to hurt somebody, anybody in the squadron, not only that, but from a human perspective, if you see somebody that needs a wingman, make sure you offer yourself, whether it's a personal issue, a CAP training issue. Again, I think it's important to, number one, be open to being a wingman and be open to needing a wingman. So, any questions, any comments?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And especially when it comes to flight operations, CAP provides that required wingman support through the part we call flight release officers. So whenever we prepare for the flight and we brief the sortie, we have to clear it with another person to make sure there is a second set of eyes looking at the same kind of situation,
Right.
And making sure that you didn't miss anything.
Right.
That you can actually safely go and fly.
And, you know, I mean, this translates to, you know, different positions, aircrew positions. If you're a mission observer, you want to be the wingman for that pilot. You want to try and relieve him of as many of those other duties so he can focus on his job. And that's the job of flying the airplane. You know, as a good mission observer, you're taking care of the aircraft. You're maybe doing flight planning prior to. You're doing all you can to be his wingman. I think it's also important from a personal perspective, especially with the holidays coming up, right? Because there are people that, you know, don't have a large circle of wingmen or family around them. Make sure that you know, keep your eyes out for those people, because it's a tough time of year for some folks. So
The key to a lot of this is being open-minded and accepting the help that they're giving you.
correct.
Some people take it as criticism, or they become very defensive.
Right.
When you're trying to assist them as to what they're doing wrong at the time, and you want to correct that in a safety aspect. So I've done that a couple times. People say, "What's your business?" I said, "I'm just trying to protect your kids from walking under the propeller." That's all.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, I mean, we're all, you know, prideful about our knowledge and what we can do and those things, but it is important to remain open to what other folks have to say. Anything else?
It's interesting. I just finished doing the community emergency response team this weekend, and we finished our group simulation. And the main thing they wanted to drill in front of you in your head was always have someone with you, and that's literally what that's all about. Because if you're in a disaster situation and you're going in to try to clear a building, and you go down, nobody knows.
Right.
And if you go in and you mark a building, date and time that you're in, and you don't come out, then they see something's wrong. Someone can go in. So they always talk about the team dynamic. This is no longer an I. This is a we aspect.
Right. And, you know, the same goes true for other things that we do here at CAP. If you see somebody struggling to get through a certain, you know, position, things that they need to study, stuff like that, you've been a great wingman to me. I mean, you provide a lot of resources. There's been a number of people in this squadron that have been that way. So I want to provide that to somebody else too. And I think that's what's important. So, all right. Thanks. Yep.
Thank you, Chuck.
No, we're not talking about Christmas socks.
No.
Sorry.
Something's going on. Okay. You knew, everybody, the closer it gets to the holidays, I was going to be talking about this. I don't know if it's going to pop up or not. It looks like it might. There it is now. It's, oh, yeah, it's very, let me do it this way. Makes it a lot better. Okay, guess what? It is the holidays. And so, and I'm glad that you did talk about what you did, because now we transition into the holidays. Okay, don't eat anything during Thanksgiving, okay? That's an edict that came down from the Civil Air Patrol headquarters. They said no Civil Air Patrol person will eat anything on the holidays. Of course, I'm kidding. They do take it a little bit seriously, mainly because of the fact that if you overindulge during Thanksgiving or Christmas, right now this is just for Thanksgiving, but it does affect your job here and anywhere else too, but especially here. Many of us tend to go overboard during the holidays. It has legalized for us to eat things that we normally would not eat the rest of the year. Legal in your head, that is. So, we all tend to kind of do that. I found that with myself, I do have some self-control. But the big thing that the Civil Air Patrol doesn't want to see is have you, especially if you think that you might get called out, because on Thanksgiving, of course, in the old days, we used to get calls all the time for a plane going down or something like that. Not so much today because of all the safety stuff that we have, GPSs and stuff, but still, it can happen. And they don't want you to go out there and you're like just ate a huge giant meal of turkey and you're about ready to fall asleep and you're taking off trying to find a ELT. So just what they just basically do. This right here, that now, they call it now the dispatch, and it is a thing. It goes online, you go on e-service and you can access it. And this article right here is in there if you want to read it further. It goes over just everything this is what the National Safety Officer basically wants us as safety officers in here to cover. I do cover as much as I can, but I don't always do so. As you guys who've known me long enough and been in this unit long enough know that I go off on other ways too. But I do like some of the articles that they do have here, and since we are going to be having our Christmas party on safety night in December, I will have a surprise for you guys, because we're not just going to do, because I find that safety nights during Christmas parties doesn't work unless we're trapped in a room like we did one of our Christmas parties in Mimi's, and they have a back room. And there, the guys had to listen to my speech. But, they're all sitting there, we want to eat, but no, you're listening to the safety meeting. But I will do a little like a handout or something like that. And so that'll be legally be our safety meeting. The big thing about is that they do talk a little bit about that it really, you can gain a lot of pounds. And a lot of doctors claim or say that they don't necessarily gain the pounds because of Thanksgiving or Christmas, but it's what happens afterward. You don't work it off, and that's the biggest problem. Originally, and it's kind of interesting because they gave some history in here a little bit, the feast that they used to have back 100 years ago, 200 years ago in this nation, they had it because it was coming into wintertime. And so that's when all the feast took place, because it was harvest, and you had a harvest of lots of food and stuff. But see, back then they used to go and it was something that helped them mentally to get better, because wintertime's coming and the sun's not coming up as often. Now, during afterwards, they would work off a lot of this stuff. So the feast that they had, they deliberately on purpose used to have lots and lots of food just because of that reason. And of course, you know, we all hear about comfort food. Well, believe me, it was comfort for them to have those feasts, plus the camaraderie and all that, you know, with the people together, and you know, the sun didn't come up until 9 o'clock in the morning and things like that. But today we're not like that, and unless you are a football player or something like that, and doing a lot of super exercise, we don't get rid of that. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. I know it's easy to said and done, and you can have fun. You know, the big thing on the second step, you'll see up there, don't keep the holiday eating going past the holiday. I think that probably is one of the biggest problems, and some of the articles I have read, that's one of the things that doctors say, that, you know, that people will, you know, you have leftovers. There's nothing wrong with leftovers, but make sure you spread it out. Don't just pig out every time you get in there. I do tend to do myself. I get letters. I'm subscribed to Mayo Clinic, and so I get all these health things from them all the time, and they talk about that kind of stuff. If you're already overweight, that can be a problem, and if you do eat a lot, then that might cause you to gain weight. And you know, some of you may exercise, some of you may not, but that's something you might want to keep in mind. You don't have to do a whole lot. Us older guys, you know, you younger guys, you know, well, I didn't mean to look at you. I was looking at him. You younger guys, you know, you probably don't have to do it as much, but the older you get, you should at least do 30 minutes of walk every day. They actually want you to do it every day. Okay, I'm done with that unless there's any questions. I thought the eating during the winter months was to put on fat so you can hibernate. Yeah, that's, well, in a way, that's kind of like what they say, although they do work hard, you know, especially a couple hundred years ago. All right, one other thing, really quick. This is from the chaplain's office. Thankfulness and Thanksgiving. Okay, everybody knows about the meals and the eating and all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the things that they found in research, that people who are thankful, okay, are thankful for things. It's not positive thinking. That doesn't necessarily do anything. But if you're thankful for things, that's what brings about that positiveness, that plus in your, they found in researches, and my daughter's a psychologist, they found that people that are thankful for things, you tend to be very positive about everything. You don't tend to go into depression. And that's one of the things that they have found. And if you sit there and are grumbling about everything, of course, we all know that. I mean, we all know that the grumbler, the guy that complains about everything, they're not happy people. But they found that come out of that is to be thankful for what you've got. And believe me, we're living in a nation where we can be very thankful. Look around the world. We could be, in the middle of a war right now. We are in ways, of course. We have, we've had 9/11. We've had, and those things are still going on. But tonight when you go home, you're going to go home, unless you get in a car accident, obviously. But you're not going to get shot through the head driving home tonight. You're not going to end up dead. So we're living in a nation that we can be very thankful for. And of course, if you believe in God and all that, and one of the things, of course, the chaplain brings up, to have a gratitude or thankful to God. And that's one of the things that he brings up in here. Let's see, prepare yourself for Thanksgiving. Make sure that you, again, don't overeat. And when you do Thanksgiving, sit down and think about what you are thankful
because that'll change your attitude. And when I see you after Thanksgiving, I want to see you guys with big smiles sitting in here going, well, yeah, let's go. Let's do. Kind of like what the fighter pilot was talking about. Any questions? None?
Those leftovers are tough to turn away from.
Tell me. I know it is. I know it is.
You gotta get rid of them.
I mean, even standing up here and talking about it makes me, get hungry.
All the calories are in the sides.
Yeah. Actually, there's ways that you could do that. My sister-in-law, she's one of these really freaky, she really gets off on this. And there is a way that you could set up things on the table where you could put the lower fat things more in front of the person than the stuff that causes fat. But see, I love my gravy on my potatoes and stuffing is. I'm sorry, but stuffing. What I just said, forget about that with the stuff. Okay, the rest of it, yeah. Now I love turkey too. How many eat ham here instead of turkey? Yeah, there are some people that do. Yeah, I know. When we have our family get-togethers, we have both usually. Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm done, Mr. Yes. Let's see. Go back. Stop. Okay. And there we go. All right.
Thank you, Roger.
All right.
Yeah, we all need a good reminder to stay healthy through the holiday season. If you travel for holidays, be mindful of alcohol. Of course, don't drink and drive. That's quite important. Bob? Yeah, it's a reminder about the holiday party, which is on December 12th. Easy to remember, right? More details will follow as promised, so check your CUP email frequently. All official communication goes through that channel. So we will start on December 12th at 1800 for drinks and cocktails. At the bar, most likely, exactly as we did last year. And then about 1845, 1900, the dinner will start. So the room is already secured. We are currently holding a reserve for 20 people. Hopefully we'll get more than that. So please mark your calendar.
I also have an announcement to make. I'm not sure how many people remember, but I came into the squadron in '98, and a gentleman by the name of Don Springer was our admin officer. He just passed away on the 21st of October. He was 92. He was in the Civil Air Patrol for many years. There is services at Riverside National Cemetery on the 22nd, which is next Wednesday at 11:30. If anybody wants to attend, I'm going to try to get off lunch and go to Tim. I have 2 next week to go to. But just keep him, his family in mind. Say a prayer for the family.
Yes, Bob, and please send the details about the service so I can distribute it to the squadron. And it makes sense to get chaplain involved so he can spread the word. Most likely he had a lot of comrades in the wing, not just at the squadron level. Okay. We have 20 minutes to go. So any other suggested topics on safety? Well, I was driving here. I usually listen to one of the aviation podcasts, and today's choice was Behind the Prop. And the theme for today's podcast was to prepare for the bad day. So whether we are pilots or we are not, at the household level, we are not really thinking much about the bad day. It may happen in our life anytime for any reason. And surprisingly, most people find themselves totally not ready for any surprises in their lives. It can be as simple as having a life insurance or just a good health insurance, because we dismiss potential risks and health issues until it's too late. And when it comes to flying, it's maybe a little bit more straightforward. It all boils down to understanding our systems and knowing our aircraft, which we are about to fly, understanding how things work and what happens when one of those things just fails for whatever reason. And I can share one of the personal experiences with failed alternator. I took my family, my son and daughter and a friend of my daughter for easy flight to Las Vegas, right? So we were going to just go in and out, have a nice dinner, walk around and come back. So I took off from Chino. Everything was just fine. And I was about halfway to Henderson Airport when I started noticing that sometimes ATC just doesn't hear me, or the reading for the voice from ATC comes scrambled. I was like, started paying attention what's going on, and I checked all the circuit breakers, everything is in good order, and I noticed that a meter is kind of showing discharge. So I figured out that either my alternator failed already or is about to fail. So I told ATC that this is about to happen, and I was hoping it will be enough battery power for me to get to Henderson, because at that point it wasn't much of a difference for me to continue to Henderson or turn back. Well, one mistake I made, I can tell right away, that turning back would be a wise idea, because at that point number of airports on the way back was a lot more along my route comparing to going to Henderson. That mistake number one. Second mistake, I forgot that there is a class Bravo before I land in Henderson. And yes, I can go under, but chances are it would be better to stay on the radio for that kind of flying. Well, long story short, the battery held up because I shut down pretty much everything I didn't need except for transponder and one of the radios. I turned off GNS 530 because it's probably one of the largest power consumers on my plane, and I used Bendix King radio instead. So I got clear through class Bravo. I am in a pattern altitude at Henderson, and the tower tells me, "Oh, 38 Quebec, what is your altitude?" And I'm like telling them I'm at pattern altitude, and they were getting sporadic readings from my transponder because the power wasn't stable, as I figured later. So I landed, everything is fine. I asked tower, I still had power to ask tower for taxi and so on and so forth. I stopped at FBO. They actually gave me directions to one of the maintenance shops, and I took a car, I drove back, took my kids back home, and came back next morning. The shop told me, well, they didn't see any problems with alternator. The battery was drained, so they charged it, and they said I'm good to go. They gave me a little sticker for my logbook, and here I went. I pre-flighted the craft and took off. And I was cleared through class Bravo, and just about me clearing class Bravo, I started experiencing same issue. So the electrical failure was happening again, much faster this time, as I figured the battery was pretty much destroyed by the previous flight. It wasn't a new battery anyway. So the ATC at class Bravo couldn't hear me anymore. I could hear them. So they told me, okay, 38 Quebec, if you still hear us, You are cleared of class Bravo, you are free to go on your ways. And I had a chance to squawk no comms on transponder, and transponder went blank. Boom, no power, period. Like, okay, so I knew what I'm going to do when I arrive at China. Luckily, what I had is a handheld radio, but I was starting to brushing up just in case handheld radio didn't work, what the gun signals were for circling around the airport and following their directions. I enjoyed about an hour of complete radio silence and enjoyed the scenery and so on and so forth. And as I approached China and Ontario airspace, I went around and under class Charlie from most familiar route to me over 91 and 15. Yes.
You still had a GPS on your iPad? Or
yeah, I still had the. Well, I was very familiar with waypoints and roads, etc. So even if I didn't have iPad, I would find my way around. And in fact, one of the reasons I chose to go to Lake Matthews, and from there I knew like every street and every corner because I was learning to fly there. So keep that in mind too. Be prepared for anything unexpected and practice in your mind what you do if stuff hits the fan. So about 91:15, I tried on a radio raising China Tower, and they couldn't hear me. Okay, fine. I crawled closer to that, and eventually, probably about, I don't know, right at the edge of China airspace, I could establish a contact, but I realized, well, I can hear tower pretty well in my Bluetooth connection to my headset, but they could barely hear me. So I had to scream to the mic for the tower to get my readings. Long story short, they gave me a way. They cleared other traffic off my way, and I landed safely. Took the airplane to the shop and replaced the alternator and the battery and voltage regulator. So that was expensive repair. But was I prepared for it? I would say yes, because I knew I'm flying old aircraft, 1967, and it was barely upgraded through its life cycle. So I had rough idea how old was my battery and how old was my alternator. So, and I read quite a lot of stories from other pilots sharing the experience. I was thankful it wasn't at night, and it was a good weather. So there was not much which could get things really hairy in that endeavor. But you know, keep in mind, things can happen at any time for any reason, and practice in your mind, play these games whenever you have leisure moment. What do I do if this fails? What do I do if that fails? Now imagine if alternator fails, you are in a cloud, and the battery fails next after it, and you are still in a cloud. What are you going to do? So how you navigate? Any ideas around what skill you have in your hands to help you navigate in that situation?
Your phone, your iPad, something.
Good point. You are not a pilot, but iPad is not acceptable means of navigation if everything else is working on aircraft. But if everything else fails, right, but iPad is working, that's perfectly fine. That's your backup. That's your lifeline, in fact. And many system like ADSB in, for example, in my case, it offers an artificial horizon on your iPad. So make sure you have good mount where you don't really move your head up and down. Ideally, right on the yoke is the best place for your iPad to be, and you can actually use that resource to get out of that bad situation. You can pick the nearest airport, you cannot declare emergency obviously, but in that scenario, deviation from ATC clearance is perfectly acceptable, right? The iPad can also give you the weather at the nearest airport, so you can assess your options for the landing. And do you have to rush? in that situation? Chuck, would you be pressed in time, or maybe you take some time and plan things ahead?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, try as best you can, sure.
Yeah, so it's not really life critical situation once you get things under control. So first fly the aircraft, right? I'm flying round dial aircraft. The vacuum still works, so I'll still have my attitude, artificial horizon, attitude indicator, and if depending on aircraft, I may still have other instruments. Of course, my airspeed is fine. Anything not connected to electrical system is perfectly functional. So fly the aircraft. If you are running on a backup power with alternator failure and everything else going down, know for how long G1000, for example, backup battery will retain power for, proper operations, and think how you can extend that time. All right, so turn off everything unnecessary. Like keep minimum stuff required for your safe operations, and plan ahead as much as you can. So one thing you may lose, fuel quantity, right? So if your fuel quantity, well, in most aircraft, it depends on electrical system. So you don't know how much fuel you have. So try to remember when did you switch fuel tanks, unless you have high wing aircraft and it's a gravity-based fuel system. Take a break, make sure things are under control, and step by step plan your way out. Right. So that would be a great exercise for simulator game. You fly in a simulator, make bad weather, and fail few systems, and see how you get out of it. So I thought that episode was very interesting, and it is really surprising how many pilots don't consider that things can go bad. New aircraft, old aircraft, doesn't matter. If you fly a complex aircraft, well, do you know what to do if power goes out? Will you be able to extend your landing gear? If it's electrically actuated landing gear, well, start planning how you can actually extend that landing gear before you land. Have you practiced it ever? Do you remember checklist items for that specific element? In my case, my landing gear is mechanical. It's Johnson bar, it's gonna work no matter what. So things can go wrong at any time. Have fun, get a safety pilot aboard, and go practice a few things. Don't fail things on purpose, but try to, play a game, cover certain instruments with sticker notes, and see how you can manage that scenario. Okay, that's something I wanted to share. Any questions, comments?
Flying a Mooney?
Yeah.
Johnson bar landing gear.
Yeah. And it's an old aircraft, and I replaced a few things, but I still have vacuum system. In my case, vacuum system only needed for my attitude indicator. Everything else is already over that vacuum system. Well, and positive control system, which doesn't really work anymore.
M20, right?
M20F.
Do any general aviation aircraft, do any of them have the drop-down wind generator?
Oh, ram air turbine.
Yeah, things from 1956.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the only ones that had that are around the 1956 era, from 1940 era.
Well, the 787s have them now.
Yeah.
The newer jets, they have a ram air.
They always have a backup.
Yeah.
Even Bonanza, you can have an STC installed on the Bonanza.
No, it just kind of makes sense. I mean, if nothing else, just to drive the radio or some other.
It depends. It's like, so the newer aircraft, so the $1 million, brand new, Cirrus has dual bus, dual alternator, right? So it's all, but for our 1960 aircraft, I'm in the same boat he's in.
Right.
There's a lot of single points of error in my flight, so
Sure.
you just have to kind of
Well, here is another idea if you didn't consider. So we all fly with a cell phone, right? And we don't fly very high. Have you paid attention to which altitude cell phone service works? In which areas it's reliable, unreliable? So I never turn it off. I always fly with cell phone on, so it gives two lifelines essentially. So I can, if God forbid I crash, it's easier to track down the location than my old ELT beacon. The other one, if I'm in a service area and I have Bluetooth enabled headphones, I just call the flight service and I let them know that the things happen, so ATC doesn't initiate search and rescue for me. And I tell them what my deviation would be. Likewise, even if you don't have handheld radio, but you still have a phone, you can call the tower. You don't need a radio to call the tower if you have a cell phone. And at or about traffic pattern near the airport, you will have a very good cell phone service. So keep that in mind. Keep maybe 1 or 2 spare power packs with you and make sure you charge them. So pay attention to what you do in your pre-flight at home, right? Pre-flight your iPad, pre-flight your backup for iPad. Pre-flight your batteries, make sure they're charged, make sure you have right cables to charge your stuff in flight, and so on and so forth. There are plenty of tools we have at our disposals to make our flights more safe than it used to be back in the days. So I really admire Bob and Roger in your days when you started flying. You didn't have maybe a lot, and you had to mostly rely on your experience and experience of your comrades.
Wood and some blankets.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
your fingers stick it out the window. It's cold. You're still flying. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the other day, I was flying to Palomar and I checked the ETIS for Palomar Airport. ETIS was giving perfect VFR weather, 10 miles visibility, no clouds whatsoever. And when I look at METAR was reporting low IFR. I was like, that's weird. So I called Mike and asked him for advice. What do I do? Mike said, well, the skies are clear, looks nice. The winds are pushing clouds away from the shore. Go fly.
Looks good to me.
Yeah. So that's about having a wingman. If you have a doubt whether to fly or not, get a second opinion. That's actually a great source of safety. When I flew to Oshkosh, I used Trent Ferris as my wingman. He checked on me every time I took off and landed, and it felt good, because for me it was the first real cross country, and I felt a little bit uneasy about it.
You have to be careful of airports and how they report weather. Now, here at March, there's tower visibility and ground visibility.
Yep.
And the tower will try and see how far visibility is by checking the National Cemetery. So when you got clouds, they can't see them. But if you're on the ground, you can see the visibility, and you can see the cemetery across the highway. I can remember shooting an approach in there for work, and Roger and I were there, and I'm 3 miles out. I'm reporting the numbers. They said, well, we're IFR still. I said, okay, then I'll call 200 feet. So it all depends upon the runway. And if you look at the tower, even at Oceanside, you're going to have two different visibility. You're going to have ground and tower visibility.
Yeah, that probably explains that METAR is reading automated weather, and probably the sensor was getting too much of haze, and the tower, ETIS is tower-based weather, and it was perfect VFR. When I got there, it was absolutely ideal day to fly, and nothing to worry about. So, in doubt, check with someone else.
We could have Corona's AWAS that just has wind missing.
Don't forget that dollar sign.
Well, if wind is missing, what do you do? How do you know what the wind is?
Fly over the airport.
Fly over the airport, see what the sock does, right? Some airports have more than one sock, one on one end of the airfield, one on the other. So, depending what your plan is, check what all the options are.
And sometimes some of the vendors on the
Well, that concludes today's safety night. Thank you everybody for
Hey, give me a
attending.
minute.
Yes. Well, I checked. We still have on my computer Michael Hubman and Mario.
But I can't get them on my computer. Why?
I don't know, Teams.
What channel are you on? And what channel am I on?
It's the same channel because I actually see in the history when we joined on your iPad, we created kind of a separate meeting.
Yeah, but I can't see Mike Hubman and I can't
And
see
Michelle
Mario.
was with
I
us,
can't
but
see you
she
either.
wasn't here. So,
Yeah.
Michael, could you hear the whole presentation?
Did it drop off?
No, Michael's still with us. And
What's that?
and Mario is with us, and Mario replied in text that everything was fine.
Can't get them on my iPad. I don't know why.
Well, keep your software up to date. Sometimes if your Teams is older than mine, for example, that may cause some weird effects. And I use Teams for work, and sometimes it's a nightmare.
Well,
So Michael, Mario, thanks a lot for attending.
it says Mike
Have a
Hubman
good
right
night.
there. I hear you fine, but I can't see him. Isn't that weird? Rodriguez says, goodbye, thank you. So somewhere along the line they were there, but I couldn't see them.
Yeah, sure.
I have no issue.
Yeah, just,
I just didn't want to
make sure everybody is
It's
done,
his fault.
has signed in.
I didn't want
I,
to vote